Hey guys, mcfixit here. We're going to be working with this Champion Beast, and it is a kind of a clearish green yellow plastic, and it is a pretty good disc, but I want to change it up a little bit. Sometimes it's hard to find on grass, so we're going to kind of do a new dye on it and make it look really cool, and got a new technique I want to show you today as well. So please stick around to make sure you see exactly how we do it. Here are the tools and supplies that you're going to need. Some kind of pie pan that will fit down. It's just over 9 inches. You'll want a magic eraser to clean everything up. Some water and Dawn dish soap also works really well to clean up the disc beforehand and afterwards. Some press and seal to cover over afterwards. Also lots of paper towels. Gloves are a really great option as well. You can see I already got some dye on my hands from something I just did a minute ago. Compressed air, one of these little trigger to air tank work really well. It's in my garage, so I can't show you it. Kind of in the corner, and you'll want a hose to make it connect through, and you can see it blowing on my glove there. It really does help a lot to make sure you're doing exactly what it needs to do when it's blowing. You'll want some toothpicks to pop any air bubbles. Lots of acetone. We use a whole lot of acetone with both the dyes and just to clean up afterwards. Clear glue, make sure it's clear. It does seem like it works a little bit better. You're going to want these little eyedroppers and Pro Chem Dye. That's what I'm going to be using, and there will be a link in the card right there and in the description below. This is some really good dye. I really enjoy using it. Good stuff. Makes the disc look really cool. And so we're going to be using a lot of different colors and just kind of mixing it up and having a whole lot of fun today. And I'm going to walk through all the steps to make sure you can do that. Go ahead, turn on some warm water, get your magic eraser wet. Go ahead and grab your disc. This is a used disc, so you're going to want to make sure it is extra clean, at least on the surface you are going to dye. Make sure the rim is all clean all the way around, because lots of fingerprints can get on that and dirt over time. Make sure to wear gloves when you're doing this step, just so you don't get any extra fingerprints on, because it can make the dye not take as well. And then just wipe it down really good. Let it air dry the rest of the way before you put it in your glue bed. So here's your setup for the glue bed. You're going to go ahead and get your clear glue, spin the cap off. You can go ahead and start pouring this very slowly. It is kind of low, so you can kind of just bend the container over and pour it. If it is brand new, please make sure you let it sit a day or two, especially if you got it shipped to you, so you can pour it out slowly and get less air bubbles. And so that's what I'm doing right here. I'm just kind of pouring out slowly. Want about anywhere from 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch of glue in the bottom. It is kind of hard to see the depth from this camera angle and with a clear pie pan, but that's what you're looking for. Then we're going to go ahead and get our dyes all ready and set up, and so we can apply the dye to it. And so we're going to start off with some pansy, and make sure you're not sticking it all the way down the bottom, because you can pick up any leftover particles of dye that do not get in that acetone mix. So you want to just get kind of the top little layer, and you're just going to go very slowly. And I like to try to, at least at the beginning, start symmetrically going around. You get to kind of choose whatever you want. We're going to go to the flag blue next, and again, just pick up some dye. Be careful with it as you're doing it, because you don't want to spill. So I'm just kind of putting it in the spaces that I did not put the purple. We'll go to fire red next. Man, I can't keep that flag blue in there. Fire red next, and again, just put little drops in between. I do like red. It does work really well on these green or yellow disc, so I do normally add a lot of fire red. And because it is a green disc, you do have to be careful not to add green to it. Green on green really won't show up very well. So here's some clear orange. It just kind of gives some extra dimension and layers, and so just add little drops all the way around, and you just keep going at this. With the clear orange, I have noticed you got to put a little bit more, just because it's, especially on a darker disc, you really got to make sure it's kind of saturated pretty good. And we'll continue to fill in more spots with the red. And so this fire red works really good for lots of disc, and I really like what it looks like. Then we'll add just a little bit more flag blue, kind of a little bit more towards the center here, and just put some drops. And it does spread really well. One thing I love about Pro Chems is it doesn't get everywhere. We're going to go ahead and put the purple in there. And what I mean by everywhere, it doesn't like intersect and change everything to like a muted one color. It kind of keeps its original color and shape. And we'll just continue to put just a couple more drops, make sure that purple looks nice and vibrant. And so just put it right back in the same spot you just put the other. You can layer these. I know a lot of people like to layer them super thick. I always like a little disc showing through, but I do like to make sure like the different spots are pretty dark in their color, so sometimes I go back over and add more like I just did with that blue. Now we're going to take the compressed air compressor with this little gun tool and just begin to push the glue. I am not pushing down all the way, and you're just kind of moving the glue around, and so I'm just barely pressing on the trigger there, and kind of going in some circular patterns as well. It kind of helps push it all together. So starting from the inside, kind of doing like some sort of a swirl to the inside, and you just keep doing this again and again and again until you get it to look exactly how you want. You can do all different kinds of things, but this swirl thing is pretty cool looking. And again, you can kind of see it in the glue moving it. It's not really going deep in the glue, which it may look like on the film. It's still sitting on top of the glue, and that's what's going to let it soak up into the disc, which is pretty cool. You may want to add some extra colors because now you have a whole lot more clear spaces. Go ahead and do that really easy. Just pick up your dropper, choose what color or colors you want, and we'll put some more pansy in right here, and some right there, and some right there. Let's do one more there. And so you just have that ability to just kind of add more color as you go, which just kind of gives it a little bit more dynamic look, which is what I like. I like to be the person on the course that my disc doesn't get confused with other people's disc, and so you have that ability very easily with this process. And just continue to spray some air. I did turn down the PSI to about 50 PSI. The air compressor I have goes up to like 175, I think. And so I turned it way down so the output of air is not super strong. That's just so I don't spray glue everywhere. So this seemed to work pretty well, and I just continue to spray the air out and kind of do that circular pattern back and forth. And sometimes you can go at a little bit different angle, as you see I'm doing here, and it kind of moves it in a different direction than just spraying straight down on it. So you're kind of going about a 45-degree angle, cutting in, and it kind of just mixes with the glue. Even though it's still sitting on top, it just somehow mixes really well and gives you kind of that cool swirl effect without using a toothpick. And so I do really like that. One thing I did mention, I didn't really have a whole lot of air bubbles in mine, but if you do have any air bubbles in yours, grab a toothpick and pop them out. That is really helpful to make sure you don't have any issues. Toothpicks are really helpful for that. And if you like how it's looking, you can just stop adding more dye, but I don't really like how it's looking. There's still a little bit more that needs to be kind of swirled in there, so I put a little clear yellow, clear orange in the center and continuing to spray that in just to give it a little bit more coloration, because the center was getting pretty clear as it was pushing the dye around and mixing the other dyes together. But again, the dyes don't mix nasty together, so like if you mix a yellow and a red or an orange and a red, it's not going to give you some nasty brown color. It still keeps the majority of its color, which is why I really like Pro Chem and dyes. And so they work really well for this, and you just keep spraying the air out until you feel like you've got exactly what you want. Feel free to take your time on this. You don't have to really rush it, which is another thing I like. You can just kind of gently do it. You can kind of go a little aggressive, but don't go too crazy because you don't want it to really mix together. You want to still keep the different colors. Now you get to choose where you're going to put your disc and make sure it's really dried off. We did just wash it, so I put a new fresh paper towel make sure it's really dried off, and you kind of look around which way. I like to hold it with my index or middle finger and index finger and just hold it tight. You're going to put it down to the right first and move to the left, about a 45-degree angle. This helps remove any of the air bubbles from potentially causing it. And so you just slowly put it down, and you'll see the glue. You can see it right now moving from the right to the left. You can also see if there's air bubbles. You can pull it up real quick if there are, but I highly recommend you not. Don't set something heavy on top of it. A lot of times people grab big heavy things and sit them on top. Don't do that. If you need to, you can gently press down, but you may not even need to do that with this size pie pan. It should sit right on top. I also like to put some cling wrap or press and seal over top of it. This just helps keep things out. I do a lot of different projects in my garage and a lot of different repairs and fixes, and I just don't want it to be nasty the next time I come out and want to reuse this glue bed. And so go ahead and let that sit for 24 hours. 24 hours. I know it's hard. Give it the time. Make sure you clean out all of your droppers each and every time. I also label mine so it doesn't get too nasty, but clean each of those droppers out. That will just make sure you're ready for the next time when you are dyeing. And so take your time, clean up your supplies, clean up your area, then put all of the caps on super tight. That will keep the acetone from drying out, because it will evaporate. So you can go ahead and pull back the film. This thing is sat for 24 hours, and you're going to pull it right out of the glue. You can see the glue kind of dripping off. You can go ahead and cover this back up, because I will reuse this bed later on. Set that off to the side, and you can go ahead and start with your hand just wiping off the glue. One of the misconceptions is that the glue stays on your disc forever. Not really true. Sometimes you'll get a little bead around the edge that you can simply pull off, especially if you've let it sit for more than 24 hours. Go ahead and get some Dawn dish soap and water, spray all over it. You can use your magic eraser, but I have noticed that when I do that, it does kind of get loaded up with a lot of the glue. So this method works pretty well too. And then you just go ahead and begin all over the disc, and then also along the rim and underneath section. It's about the only place your glue should have hit, but if you know it hit someplace else, go ahead and put some more on there. And then I take the paper towels. It's just kind of an abrasion tool to just make sure all that glue is off. Remember, there wasn't much of a stamp left on this one, so I actually kind of like how it turned out, that you don't really see even much of the stamp. There wasn't much to begin with, but I think that turned out really, really neat. One of the first times I've actually used a compressor and moved the dye around. I think I'm going to do that, a couple more videos on that in the near future. If this was helpful, please like and subscribe. Comment if you do have any questions as well. Thank you guys so much for watching.